James Harden trade is not on the horizon for the foreseeable future. Clippers are really reluctant to give up anything of value because they're pretty much the only team that is bidding for James Harden at this time, which makes sense, right? When no one else is in play, you have the say, right? And James Harden has made it abundantly clear he wants to go to the Clippers. He is a free agent after this season, so no other team is really going to give up a bunch of assets to go get James Harden. And I don't see any team that would want to do that anyway. This isn't a, Toronto Raptors Kawhi Leonard situation where it's like Kawhi is arguably the best player in the league at the time, best two-way guy. The guy was fantastic. The guy is just, the big marquee free agent guy coming up in a year. And it's like, well, if we get him, we get one shot. He's not going to stay, but if we win the championship, it's worth it. And then you see Ujai Ujiri roll the dice, and boom, there you go, right? And it's like, congratulations, you got the NBA championship, your first ever. That's not going to be the case with James Harden, right? No team is looking at James Harden going, man, he's the missing factor, especially with his history, right? Where he has a history of just completely disappearing in the playoffs. If this was 27-year-old James Harden, who was, Mr. Triple-Double, MVP level type guy, then yeah, probably there'd be a team that would take a chance, take a gamble on him, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. So that basically leaves James Harden with one option right now, and that is to play for the Sixers. And James Harden has officially returned to the Sixers and their training camp after a 2-day absence. And, it's not, there hasn't been reports yet that he's, causing a ruckus or a stir or anything like that. But there are reports that he wants to make things uncomfortable. He plans to make things as uncomfortable as possible in order to kind of force the Sixers to trade him, Daryl Morey to kind of unload him because they'll fear he'll sabotage the season, which is not good because he has, right? We saw him do it with the Houston Rockets, did it a bit with the Brooklyn Nets. Like, it's not, which I don't even know why as a basketball player, as a professional athlete, you would even want that reputation and just that to behave in such a manner, right? Like, it's silly to me. But nonetheless, here we are with James Harden, and that very likely could be the case. Now, I hope for Joel Embiid's sake that he doesn't, right? Like, it's not like James Harden is on the Houston Rockets, right? Like, when James Harden did what he did with Houston, they were terrible. They weren't winning anything. They didn't even have a chance or a shot, right? It was him and basically a rebuilding Houston. So this is a completely different situation. You have the reigning MVP. You have a real roster with an opportunity to go and contend. And it's basically you, the Boston Celtics, who are mentally weak and fall apart, and the Milwaukee Bucks, who they got Damian Lillard. But we'll see. There's a lot of question marks with that, right? I know a lot of people are willing to just crown Milwaukee the NBA champions, but losing Drew Holiday is going to hurt their defense massively. Yes, they get that upgrade in the offense, and as well as a closer and a big-time scorer down the stretch, which they really need. But is there a little, is Damian Lillard going to be okay with being the second option? Is Giannis going to be okay with that? Is there going to be a little, kind of filling out period? Even teams like Miami with their big three didn't win it in the first year, right? So Philly still has a very good chance and a very good opportunity here. This is also James Harden, and we have seen how James Harden conducts himself. And we've seen how when James Harden wants out and he feels slighted or he feels a certain way about something, he's going to do whatever he can to force his way. And, he goes about it in my opinion, the worst way possible. Like Dame, even Kevin Durant, like guys like that, they forced their way out. They ended up getting traded and stuff like that, but they conducted in a proper manner. You know what I mean? Like, I know some people think Dame didn't, but I thought Dame was fine given the circumstances. He wasn't out there trying to sabotage and blow, this team up or anything like that. Like, he went about his business, moved on, and was done. Right? So, I hope, again, for Joel Embiid's sake, because Philly, again, I feel personally, if I'm Daryl Morey, I'm doing whatever I can to keep Joel Embiid happy. Because last thing you want is James Harden completely sabotaging and just throwing away the season like he did in Houston And now Joel Embiid's like, get me out of here. I don't want to do this. Like, I have no opportunity of winning. James Harden's leaving. When James Harden does leave, everything's going to be up in the air. I've been waiting and been patient. And now this is the second player that you've gotten that has done this. It's like, at what point does Joel Embiid say, all right, enough is enough. I'm tired of playing these games. Like, I want to win. You know, like, he's been very good and very patient. Better than some. Like, a lot of players probably by now would have been like, I'm done, get me out of here. I mean, even Giannis was already forcing, you know, the Milwaukee's hand and trying to, you know, throw out the temptation of like, hey, I have no problems leaving. I'll get out of here. And he didn't even have a James Harden. I mean, look, James Harden isn't the same James Harden, but he was still 20 points per game and led the league in assists. So he wasn't like some slouch. He wasn't some bum. I mean, in the playoffs, yeah, he completely disappeared at times again, like he usually does. But he also single-handedly won a couple of those playoff games for Sixers, right? So he's still a guy that I do think can make an impact. I just don't think he's like the missing piece for these contending teams, right? Like, I don't look at, you know, a team like even the Clippers. I don't even know how well that would work. Right? Because you still have Russell Westbrook. So what? You're bringing Russ off the bench? Okay. Right? But still, like, is he going to be okay being the third option? Right? Because that's what James Harden would be, the third option. He's not going to be the first or second option over Kawhi Leonard and Paul George when they're playing. But also, will those two even play? Because James Harden with all the role guys isn't winning anything. James Harden and Russell Westbrook with all the role guys isn't winning anything. We already saw that in Houston, and that was with a better version of James Harden and a better version of Russell Westbrook. So I don't know what the answer. I would personally do whatever I can to trade James Harden, right? Because if James Harden does begin to sabotage stuff and James Harden begins to, you know, just underperform on purpose, and it is clear that you're not going to get the best James Harden, and the only reason he's even on the basketball court is so he doesn't get fined and so that way he can earn his paycheck, at least if you trade him to the Clippers, right? And let's say it is for like Nicholas Batum and Robert Covington and whatever, right? At least those guys will want to play. At least those guys, game in and game out, night in and night out, will try their hardest for that team. And that would allow Maxey to really thrive and shine. And look, a roster of like Tyrese Maxey, Nicholas Batum, Robert Covington, PJ Tucker, and Joel Embiid, I don't think is that terrible, right? I mean, I don't think it's a contending roster, but you'd be pretty good defensively. You'd have some offensive weaponry. If Tyrese Maxey can kind of take that next step as now like the number 2 option behind Joel Embiid, then I still think you could probably be in that conversation for a second to give you some depth, give you some versatility, right? Like, again, I don't think that that's terrible, but at least they want to play, and at least you could go to Joel Embiid and be like, look, James Harden doesn't want to be here, doesn't want to play, he's sabotaging and ruining things. We could go get these guys. At least they're going to show up game in and game out, night in and night out. You know, they're not James Harden, but maybe through all of them, we can get the production, right? And, you know, maybe we'll be better defensively, all of those things, right? That's the approach I'd have. And then sell them on, look, James Harden's going to leave either way next season, so we're going to have to find a replacement in the offseason next year or try to build and establish a new team in the offseason next year regardless. We get these guys, we get Covington and Batum and guys like that, we'll still maintain that financial flexibility that we can then go and use to go get that other guy. If another star becomes available at some point, you know, around the trade deadline or whatever, we'll do our best and make a push and go all in to try to go get that guy to bring him in for you, right? Like, that would be my selling point. That would be my talking point. You know, because, again, I don't see James Harden saying, you know what, all right, like, I'm going to try my hardest. I'm going to do my best. I think if he gets like a little nagging injury, I think he prolongs that and sits that out. And, you know what I mean? I guarantee you he'll find ways because we don't have proof otherwise. He's done it year in and year out. We've seen him do it constantly. So, I don't know. I'm just not sold on James Harden playing ball. those are my thoughts and opinions. And as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know yours down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Do you think James Harden will play the role? Do you think, no, he's gonna be that guy that sabotages and tries to ruin everything and blow everything up? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments.